Guys, good evening. Good evening. Welcome back to another Landscaping to the Point, um, where me and JC are here, but our AI friend Josh is not. So, if you want to join in sometimes, join in because, sometimes it's just a couple of people, sometimes it's just me and JC or me and Josh or all of us. But welcome everybody to the show. This is Landscaping to the Point. We like to get straight to the point and get on some great topics, business stuff, sometimes some just random stuff, like today's episode of Downfall. We're going to get into some weird, probably downfall-ish stuff. Who knows what we're going to get into today? But it's going to be a great episode. So welcome everybody that's watching. Everybody that's listening, wherever you're listening to us, continue to listen to us. Like it. Let us know what you think about it and comment because we always like to have some comments and some likes on that. But JC, I know we're at the halfway point of the year. He's got some goggles. He's got the landscape goggles on, upside down. So if you were in it's still in business, which to me, I feel like you're still in business. You still cut a couple grasses. And, but we're at the halfway point. It's weird to say, like you had said earlier, that we're at that halfway point. It's just right around the corner for us guys up here. A lot of guys down south might mow maybe one more month or so, but they're still at the same halfway point too. So it's a big difference, I would say, where we're at in society, that we kind of as business owners know where our halfway point is and what we have to readjust to go through for the rest of the year. What do you think?
Well, I think every place in the country has their own version of their halfway point. But like what you said, yeah, kind of right now, this year's gone by fast, and I think it's like a broken record. We say that every single year, how quickly things happen. And if we don't, keep up, then we're left behind. But just signs of that, man. It's like even like early mornings are starting to get cool. Like right now, evenings are getting cooler now. I'm wearing a hoodie, which we're in the middle of, the end of July into August now, which to me is kind of odd. Like, I don't know, but the temperature changes like one day to another, and it's an indicator, especially now, like like we mentioned, this might be a little more over the halfway point for some people, because some businesses get an early start, in April. For us, we don't really get into the season like towards the very end of April into May. So for us, it's kind of the halfway point. For others, they've had a head start. Yeah, man, it's a lot to think about, and like I just said a little while ago, if you don't keep up with it, you're going to be left behind.
Right. Do you feel that the weather's different this year than in the past? Because I feel like in the past we used to have tons of 90-degree weather, like close to 100, and this year it seems like it's been up and down to where we haven't really had that peaks, weeks of rain and snow. Well, we have had rain and snow, but not that much. But I mean, the heat's not there, it seems like, this year. And I don't know if are we in a different cycle of the earth that we're missing out on this heat, or is it just,
I don't know if it was like my innocent memories of as a kid, but like when I was a kid and we had summer vacation, like it was hot outside. Like we would, play with like water balloons and squirt guns just to cool off, and it seemed like that type of weather back then spanned for a longer amount of time. And as we get older, I don't know if it's just our age or being more privy to like how it really is. It seems like the summers get shorter every single year, and earlier we get into the winter time, and later we get out of the winter time. So now in this current state, like for me, I appreciate the summer a lot more because I know how quickly it ends. But I kick myself in the ass because I still haven't made it out to the beach yet, and that's another conversation for another time. But being able to like have time to do things like that, it's just yeah. To answer your question, going back, it does feel like the weather's changing, and it's I would label it more as being inconsistent, less consistent. We've had a lot of rain this year. We had a lot of rain last year. I feel like we had more rain this year than we did last year. I don't know what the stats are,
Right.
and I think that's what's leading to like cooler mornings and cooler nights now. Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to hear what other landscape owners, businesses, feel as to how the weather's been changing throughout the years and how it's affected their businesses and how it affected their game plan. Are they enjoying it? Has it been detrimental to them for making money? Did it have to make adjustments? Just all those things.
Right. I feel like you said, it's been more of a rainy last 2 years. So, you know, when I kind of started in the business, we had a lot more hotter days to where you lost like almost a month of mowing. And I feel like the last 2 years we haven't really lost a lot of mowing. Um, and I know there's years that we get to where we're totally dry, that we're hardly any rain. But do you feel like, I hear that there's companies out there that are manipulating the clouds to make sure that we get the rain and all that. Do you feel like that is an issue, that it's affecting everything to where it's manipulating the clouds that is making it more rainier and cooler for us all, or is it just another downfall, conspiracy theory out there?
Dude, not at all. I don't buy into that whole conspiracy theory stuff, and I'm sure the super political people are probably going to get on my tail for this, but like, listen, global warming is nothing new. This planet, ever since its existence, has been changing in climate since the beginning of time, since before all of us. We've had our ice ages, we had our stone ages, we had our you name it. And it's not like the world has been consistently, supposed to be a certain way. It changes. Like we all change. We age. Our backs, our legs, our knees don't work the same anymore. The earth is just like that. Like it experiences age. It gets older, and it experiences changes. To keep it simple, no, I don't think that the government has control over the weather patterns. I don't think the government could control when a hurricane arises and when natural disasters occur. Does
Right.
our emissions have something to do with it? Sure. Does our does our pollution have something to do with it? Sure. But that's just a fraction of a percentage that adds to the change. Even if we fix all those things, again, not getting political, the if we corrected all of that stuff, the world's not going to be like, all right, I'm cool now, so I'm going to stay the same forever. No, it's going to change. Okay, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I feel like, yeah, they say that a lot of things is manipulated and all that stuff, but I don't think they can totally change everywhere in the United States at one time to where it makes it cooler or rainier more. Like you said, how they're saying that they make tornadoes just pop out of nowhere and hurricanes. I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. I think for that to happen, it might be in another 15, 20 years before that happens, but I don't see it right now, and I don't think it's affecting anything. But like you said, the world goes through changes, and I think we're in that change right now, that where we're at a more of a cooler, rainier area, and you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So
Right.
um, do you feel that, okay? Here's another one. We're going to go into downfalls, a little bit more downfall, and on this one, because I know a lot of people will get us a little bit weird here, probably thinking that we're all over the place. But so, do you feel that I think it's funny that they say that AI is going to change a lot of things out the world, and it's going to change, even our industry. Do you feel, going down the rabbit hole here? We're going to go down the rabbit hole.
Okay.
Okay. I feel, okay, and I want to know what your feelings are on this. Is, do you feel AI is ever going to change the way landscaping and lawn care is going on right now? I don't. I don't see landscaping being changed by AI, because unless they're making robots that's all controlled by AI, we're fine. I don't feel like we're going to be out of our jobs. Like, I don't feel AI is going to replace plumbers. I don't feel AI is going to replace electricians. I don't feel AI is going to replace landscapers, policemen, fighters. None of that's going to get replaced by AI. Do you agree with me, or do you think differently?
Yeah, I agree with you. And for those that think AI is brand new, it's not. Since the invention of the calculator, that's AI. AI has just advanced throughout the years. We've always been using AI, since calculators in school to Tandy computers as a kid to internet. Anyways, now hear me out though. I have a counter to what I just said.
All right.
Most of us have seen the movie The Matrix, right?
Yeah.
So to answer that question, I'm going to throw something out there for you to kind of scratch your head on. If we progressed into a point in the future where now we're in the Matrix, like like how they slept and they put the thing in the back of their head and they would
Right.
be in this virtual reality world. Would the future ever be a point where all human beings are connected to a device and then live their world virtually? And then in essence, I know I'm sounding crazy right now. In essence, we would be virtually mowing people's lawns.
Ooh.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, it is crazy.
Then in that aspect, yeah, AI would replace landscape business. I know this is a crazy conversations, but it's conspiracy theories.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I could see that down the road maybe, but then at that point, you still have to have certain, like, the whole Earth would have to be, how would you say it, developed to where you don't have that grass or that the trees or the bushes to be maintained. So I could see that at that point, but at that point, you're still there's a lot to go before that. You know what I'm saying? Like electricians, like I heard Mike Rowe say today that, like, the trades are just so far out that there's not enough people in the trades anymore. And we're so far behind on getting people into the trades. And a lot of the people that are now starting to get into the workforce don't want to do the trades. So now we're starting to get farther behind on what it's going to be to maintain that stuff. Like, look at a lot of these lawn companies. A lot of these lawn companies are now going solo because they can't find the employees. So now you're starting out with a lot of smaller companies because you can't keep employees. So is that going to end up being a downfall of our industry?
Maybe. I mean, that's not just in our industry. That could be in life, like you said, in general. So, like, have you ever heard of? We've heard of evolution, right?
Right.
Things evolve. But have you ever heard of de-evolution, where things go back to simpler terms, right? So, to put that in context as an example, it's funny. I have a lot of thoughts, and like people right now on this particular podcast must think like JC's crazy because like he's talking.
Yes, our viewers are watching and thinking, "What the heck is he?"
So de-evolution, right? You just gave an example of that. We have landscape businesses, right? And those landscape businesses can't maintain their employees, so now those business owners become solo operators, right? What's after that? The homeowner starts doing their own lawn. And the next thing you know, there is not a lot of landscape businesses left around because people are going back to how it used to be before
Right.
there was ever a lawn and landscape business or a community or anything like that. People would maintain their own properties, people would maintain their own lawns, and that could be potentially something in the future, because if we do not have sufficient employees or people willing to work, people are going to have to figure out how to do. That's why do you think YouTube is so popular? Because the DIY community throughout the last 15, 20 years, DIY has gained a lot of popularity, has given a lot of people access to learn information on how to do things for themselves. And that's why like these DIY channels on YouTube are so successful, because people want to know how to do things for themselves and not have to hire somebody. And just learn a skill, just learn how to do something proficient, be good at it. Carpentry, mechanics, people are fixing their own cars. People are detailing their own cars. People are, doing their own construction, all those things, people are now putting in their own mini split air conditioning units and heaters, instead of hiring an electrician to come out and do it. Things may go in the future, things may go back to a more simplistic lifestyle.
Right. I mean, it could. I could see it going that way, but I still feel that there's so many people out there, homeowners, that still want to do it themselves, And I feel like there's so many homeowners too that I feel like there's a 50-50 break, that certain homeowners don't want to do it. They want to have that peace. They want to have that mind where they have somebody that can take care of it and not have to worry about it. So I feel like there's that 50-50 where some that want to do it themselves and some that want to have a higher company. So I feel like I don't ever see that changing. I mean, maybe in the future it might change, depending on where the workforce is. If the downfall of the workforce goes down more in the trades, I feel like maybe that might change more, whether you see more people doing it themselves. But it's also where I see a lot of homeowners that try to start a project, even watching YouTube and watching a lot of us landscapers do it. They see it and say, oh, wow, I can do that. And then they get in there and they get halfway through it. And then they can't do it. They can't finish it the right way, or there's a mess up down the road of doing something. And then they're like, okay, well, maybe I should have hired that landscaper to do that job, because it took me, 10 hours to do when, he showed in the video like, oh, this is a 2-hour project. Look how quick it is, and then, oh, it took 10 hours and I still messed something up. So maybe I should have hired a professional. So then you're hiring that professional to still come in and finish that job. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't see it totally going away yet. I don't know. I feel like everything had, like you said, evolved. So I feel like we might be in that down, grade of, and then we're going to all evolve and be better at a lot of the stuff and become better, companies, and people are going to want to jump into it. I don't know. It's one of those things. It's kind of hard to say what's going to happen next on that, but I mean, I've seen the downfall in the business. The trades have gone down in the last couple of years. So who knows what will happen from here on out?
Yeah. It's like, why do you think DIY is so popular? It's because people learn about themselves. It's not about learning about the project. It's not about learning how to do something. They learn about themselves. And what I mean by that is that they're surprised when they discover that they're able to do something. Wow, I never knew I could do this before. I watched a video, I gave it an attempt, and I got it completed. On the contrary to that, they tried something, they were not successful. At the end of the day, they learned what they're capable of and they learned what their limitations are. And if you take that into consideration, that may be the difference between learning how to do something and doing it on your own, or learning your limitations and then realizing, hey, I can't do this, so I'm going to have to hire somebody in the future to do this for me, because I know I've tried it before and I wasn't capable of doing it efficiently enough. So there's always going to be that niche or that demand for a certain skill. And just like Josh says has said on several past podcasts. Last week he said it, is that this is a luxury service. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
landscaping, mowing lawns, and things like it's a luxury service. You know, and it's one of those things where once people are starting to realize how to do things for themselves, businesses that offer that service are going to see less customers. And it's up to you as a business to adapt to those changes as well too, because if the homeowner is going to improve their skills, if the homeowner is going to adapt and learn things and be self-sufficient and no longer needs you, you need to think about what you want, what you could offer them that they're going to potentially need. So evolving your business is absolutely crucial. You have to be able to kind of change things up. You have to learn how to do other stuff and offer other skills that are in demand. Because if you stay stagnant and people are starting to figure stuff out on their own and other businesses are coming in or whatever those circumstances are, you know, you're going to remain in the same situation that you were 5 years ago. You have to evolve. And that's what prevents a downfall from a business. Because if you don't keep up with the times ain't going to keep up with you. It's going to outrun you.
Right. Do you feel okay? So as your business is being stagnant and losing customers, and you got to adapt. Definitely, I feel like we all as business owners should adapt on a yearly basis, if not more, if you can. I think that's one of the good things about the business, and I feel like running a business, you can look at things a different way. Like we go to Equip and check out the different technologies that are coming out, the new equipment that's coming out that can help us evolve our businesses. But I feel like, do you feel that there's so many out there that are trying to sell you how to run a business? Do you feel like if your business is stagnant that you need to go and buy into those programs to become more evolved? Or do you look at different ways, like when we go to Equip and say, well, this piece of equipment, this Mulchmate will definitely evolve my business tenfold because, you know, instead of paying that guy $5,000 a year, I'm going to put it into a piece of equipment that, you know, it might cost me more, but it's going to evolve my business.
I'm a very conservative thinker. And maybe people will disagree with me. Maybe you and Josh may disagree with me on this, but if you've owned a business and you've done nothing but fail, or you haven't mastered a certain skill and you feel the need to jump into something else, you shouldn't, because you need to figure out how to run your business successfully before you go up to the next step.
Right.
You know, like if, for example, and I know I'm kind of speaking a little crazy, but for example, if I haven't learned how to manage my books, if I haven't learned how to manage my route density, if I haven't learned how to manage my pricing, why am I going to go out and buy a Mulchmate and then potentially fail on that too? Right. So it's like the Mulchmate is a cool machine, but that might not be the answer to my problems.
Right.
The answer to my problems is figuring out the stuff that I'm failing at. And then once I figure that out, then I can move on to my next endeavor and try to add that to my business and continue. It's taken step by step by step by step. You know, and I forget where I'm kind of losing track of thought here, but what was the original question that you asked?
Do you think evolving by either paying for equipment that can help evolve your business, or do you feel putting money into like a system that say, I know there's the landscape millionaire out there that wants to, you know, he wants to sell you his system for $10,000 a year.
Yeah. No, man.
I feel like you're like what you were going on about. You have to learn from what your you know business is downfalling from. Like if it's the books, if it's employees, if it's sales or marketing, I feel like you have to look into how do you fix that issue, because
I don't think going
yeah,
into a program like that is going to be the answer to your problems.
no, I don't think so either.
Uh,
I really don't. I don't think buying into a lot of these programs when there's so many free, stuff out there. Like you said before, like if a homeowner can look on YouTube and find out exactly how to fix something, how to do it himself, why would you pay a company $10,000
yeah,
just to,
and I'm not knocking those guys that do that. More power to them, and a lot of them have found success, and a lot of them, there's some people that go to those and praise it, which is fine. I've never been to one, so I don't know, but I don't think so. My own personal opinion is I don't think that's going to be the answer to your problems, because if you have to go to a class like that, it depends too. If you feel you have to go to a class like that to save your business is already doomed. If you are successful in your business and you want to go to a class like that to see if there's something else that you're missing, that may be more beneficial for you. If you've already been running a successful business and want to know maybe some more things, maybe then that could help you out with certain things. Oh, yeah, I never thought of that. You'll come back with one or two ideas.
right.
If you're failing, don't rely on that to save your business.
Well, I'll tell you something. If you guys are failing, I would look into Mike Andes. Mike Andes is always trying to help businesses out and help them grow and learn from their failures. And I think that, instead of putting money into a program or buying something off an influencer that's trying to sell you the best product that he can sell you and his way of doing it, everybody does it differently. JC did lawn care different than I did. Josh does lawn care, landscaping different than I do. We all do it differently. And I don't think trying to copy somebody and paying them to figure out how to run your business is always going to work out for you. It's how you run your business that helps you evolve and continue to grow.
I'm going to say something controversial. I want to be controversial,
Okay.
JC, today.
All right, let's do this.
If you failed so many times in this business, maybe this business isn't for you. Maybe that's God. Maybe that's God telling you that this is not your path of life.
Right. So how many times would you consider yourself failing before you would say this isn't the right way for you?
Well, that's different for everybody.
Right.
That's different for everybody because it depends on their personal situation. Are you at a point where you're going to file for bankruptcy, or are you at a point where, you're just breaking even? Because that's different. If you're breaking even, you're still somewhat surviving, but you're not getting ahead.
Right.
That's a different type of failure than someone who's rock bottom.
Right.
If it got to a point where I'm trying every week to hold my head above water, I lose sleep because I'm stressed out, I'm wondering how I'm going to pay the next bill. That to me is like, if I've been and add to account if how long I've been doing it and living that way. Maybe it's been 5 years since I've been that way, struggling, chipping away at it, and I'm trying to hold my head above water. That's 5 years too long. That's where I'm personally, JC personally is going to say, this is not for me. I need to figure something else out. Maybe this is not my calling. I thought it was my calling. Maybe it's not. Like it's okay. It's okay to fail in life.
Right.
You're going to be a lot more successful doing something else. Maybe you go into auto detailing. Maybe you go into, I don't know. Maybe if you're not doing hardscapes, maybe you introduce that, or you learn how to do that, or a different career path. It's okay. Like, we might figure it out soon. Some figure it out sooner, some figure it out later. But what I could tell you right now is if I'm in a position where for the last 5 years I've been trying to hold my head above water and I haven't made any progress, I'm not going to continue that Groundhog's Day. I'm going to reassess my situation and decide whether or not this career path is my career path. And if it's not, then I'm going to get out of it and try something else.
So do you feel that when they say you're always okay, the first 5 years you don't make nothing. So do you feel in any business, running a business like ours, that within 5 years, if you're still failing and you ain't making money, you should be out of it? Correct?
I don't want that to be taken out of context,
Right.
because you could be doing something for 5 years. That was an example, but you could be doing
Right.
something for 5 years, and you could have started something. First year you're small, and then 5 years from now you have 3 crews,
Right.
and you're still, just because you've grown doesn't mean that you're not,
There.
you've gotten out of that situation where you're trying to hold your head above water. More money means more responsibility. More employees means a bigger payroll. You
Right.
know, and more businesses, more clients could maybe lead to potential losses. Like higher insurance. So just because you grow doesn't mean that you're successful, right? Please don't criticize that. And I'm not saying it with disrespect to any
Yeah.
business, but I'm saying,
I know you're not, and
I
I don't.
I failed at a part-time
We,
business. I'll tell you that right now. But just because you have those 4 crews and equipment and customers and stuff like that does not mean you're successful.
right.
It's an accomplishment that you've gotten to that, but you could turn that into a more successful business. You may be in debt up to your nose, and it's like your neighbors. Your neighbor drives, let's say your neighbor drives a brand new Range Rover, and his wife drives a brand new, G-Wagon Mercedes, and they have a jacuzzi and an in-ground swim pool. They may be in debt up to their noses, and at the end of the day, it looks like success, but it really isn't.
Right. Right. Pablo Black Sheep is on Instagram right now, and he says, you can't push the growth. You just got to go with the flow. And I feel like, yeah, sometimes you got to go with the flow.
Mm.
Sometimes, I'll tell you from my beginnings, I started out small and I got big real quick. And I'll tell you what, that you go with the flow. Like sometimes, yeah, you got to adapt and evolve your business as you grow. And you're going to have your ups and downs. And yeah, you can have mistakes, you can have failures. You got to learn from them and figure out how to evolve your business if you want to be in business. There's, I'll tell you what, I've had plenty of times where the downfall is where I'm like, oh, I'm done. I want to be out of this, and you got to take it in that moment that you had a bad day, and tomorrow's going to be a different day. You're going to continue to grow and evolve, and wherever you're at that point, you want to figure out, what do I need to do for the future? And I feel like I'm slowly working my way to that future, and trying to get to that point. And you take it one day at a time, and that's the best way you can do is go with the flow.
I agree with Pablo. What's up? First and foremost, Pablo, what's going on? Miss you, buddy. And also to want to shout out P&H Lawn Care. My Boston accent just came out there. You heard that?
Yeah.
All right. So to add to your point, there's nothing wrong with staying hungry as a business owner.
True.
But choose your meals wisely. That doesn't mean you go out and you eat whatever.
Have steak every day?
You can't. Well, steak is a little up there. Yeah, I could have steak every day. It'd be awesome, but it doesn't mean you just eat whatever is in your path. Like,
right.
It might upset your stomach. So stay hungry as a business owner, but choose your meals wisely. And I think that's what Pablo. Maybe I misrepresented what he was saying, but I think that's kind of like the path that we're kind of trying to talk about and go towards.
I feel like sometimes you don't want to go real fast at business. It's sometimes easier to go slower than to evolve your business fast. I feel like when I started and I went to that point where we grew fast, I feel like it was a learning curve to to figure out what worked best and how to continue to work it the best way. One of my downfalls was definitely hiring the right people, and people that actually cared and wanted to do the right thing. And sometimes you look at like, oh, this is an able body. Let me get this guy in here and he'll work. Nick and P&H that we were talking earlier, and one of his things was like he had somebody like, oh, I'm coming into the country, hook me up with a job. Well, yeah, that's somebody that just wants a job. It's not somebody that wants to be in this type of industry that wants to be able to continue to grow and help grow your business with you. So I think that's one of the things you got to look at when you're trying to hire people. If you are trying to hire people, is are they going to be willing to grow with you and be able to adapt as you adapt and learn new things and be able to continue to grow from that point on, and share your vision. Like that's the main thing is, we all have visions on how we want it to grow and how we want our businesses to be at one point. So that's where you got to go at.
And dude, you're a prime example, not just because you're my friend, but you're a prime example of that because you've actually downsized, right? Yep. From the amount of the amount of employees you had at Cruise, and in essence, that you're at a point now where, correct me if I'm wrong, you're more successful, and less stressed out than you were when you were a bigger company, right? Like and then also too, like the definition of success is unique to everybody.
Yeah.
What is success? Is success having money and Instagram followers and being able to drive these crazy cars and stuff, or is success having a loving household with a roof over your head and food on your plate? Measure your success by that, because everybody's is different.
Right.
It's not saying having either of those things or all those things combined is wrong, but like maybe you are success. Like for those that think that they're failures, maybe you are successful, but you just don't really see it yet because you have a different type of vision of what success is. And if you really take a step back and look at what you have and what's surrounding you right now, you probably realize, or maybe hopefully you'll realize, that what you have in front of you is something that anybody would be lucky to have. So it's like, be grateful for for a lot of your accomplishments. Pat yourself on the back every now and then.
Right. Like our last episode, staying humble. That's the main thing you want to do is stay humble and acknowledge your achievements. Pablo says, if you push it, you can run into a wall, but if you go with the flow, you can swerve around them. I agree with that. I mean, I really do. Sometimes you don't need to say yes to every job. I think that was one of the things that I've learned over the years is that you don't need to say yes to every job. Not every job is the job that you want to do. It's if you want to take that job and if that's what job you want to have done. And, I think we all look at that when we first start out as a business, that we want to do that job and we want every job we can get. And, I think that's one of the downfalls in our business is that us as new business owners, we take every job anywhere. I know guys in my area that run all over the place and their route density isn't there. They're, they're going from town to town to town, and, they're just trying to get that, that job, that money. And that's good that you're getting that money, but what is it costing you? What is it costing you time-wise, when you could condense and be like, oh, I'm right here in this 3 streets, and be like, okay, this is what I'm going to do for, I can continue to grow in this area and just be in 3 streets to start out with and keep growing. And what is it going to cost you? Not much in gas, because you're not going that far, compared to going everywhere else. It's costing you more in gas. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's something to think about. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So we went down that downfall.
Controversial. A little bit of controversy here. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a very good downfall on that one. So here, we'll go on some really good downfalls now. Do you think? I know It's funny how certain people say that we were born in the 1900s. Do you feel? Here we go.
Yeah.
Do you feel that some of these people, because eventually some of these people, will they ever even think about the 1900s?
When's the last time you thought about the 1800s?
I don't know. I've never been in the 1800s. So
That's what they're gonna do.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Like, it's funny, man. Like it's depressing. I say it jokingly, but it's depressing when people like, yeah, the songs of the 2000s, like that. They make that sound like it was so long ago, and to some it was, and like for us it wasn't. Like, I don't know, was it like the 2000s was like the
2000 was, I was 20.
Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera era, like Backstreet Boys versus NSYNC era. Don't ask me how I know all this, but like that was what, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And there are kids that weren't even born during that time. They're like 22, 23 in the industry, and they're like, wow, the 2000s must have been crazy. It's like, that was just yesterday, man.
Yeah. But it's funny because so you got some of these singers that were back way before that, in the 1900s starting out, and they're still out there now. And it's funny to see the younger kids like look up to him and want to listen to him, and you're like, I was listening to that guy, like Eminem, for one of them. Like, I was listening to Eminem back in the 90s. Like, like here they're all like, oh wow, Eminem, and you're like, yeah, I already heard that song like back when it first came out. Sorry, like that's nothing new. That's a classic for me. Like,
what's funny, dude? So like this is a true story. Last summer, I was hanging out with a friend of mine, and I saw this kid, and the kid wasn't a day older than 22 years old, and he had a tattoo on his forearm that said Illmatic. Now, my favorite rapper in the world is Nas. Like greatest rap album of all time is Illmatic. And I saw that tattoo on the kid. I'm like, bro, how old are you? He goes, oh, I'm 20, 21 or 22. I was like, how do you know Illmatic? That came out in 1994. And he's like, it's the greatest rap album of all time. I'm like, what? Like, how do you know about that? He's like, well, my dad, was a big Nas fan, and he put me on it, and I was like, wow. I was impressed on the fact that he knew what Illmatic was. He agreed and acknowledged that it was the best rap album of all time, and he loved it so much that he tattooed it on himself. And it's like, so to your point about like kids now are like saying like, oh yeah, I'm into like Eminem, or when he first came out, or that was cool that you guys lived during that era, and they're appreciating that music. Like, this kid took it back even more, man. Like, that's crazy, man. Crazy.
Yeah. That's pretty cool, dude. That's amazing to hear that. Like, because like you said, it's one of those things, like you're not used to it sometimes when the kids are like, oh well, I listen to that, and you're like, what do you mean? Like,
what pisses me off though is when you hear a song, a new song today, and then the kids are listening to it like, oh man, that's awesome, and then we listen to it, we're like, wait a minute, that's a remake of like one of the oldest songs, and then they hear the old song and they're like, oh, the new artist, that song copied this new artist. It's like, no, it's the other way around.
Right. Dude, that's been happening for years. Like, if you go back to some of these songs, and there's so many that have been remade, and you're like, the new ones, people are like, oh yeah, it's such a good song, and you're like, no, the original's better. Like, it's better for us. Like, it's just,
and they have zero knowledge about the original. Like, oh man, it's the greatest beat I ever heard in my life. It's cool. Like, yeah, that came out like 20 years ago.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So here we go. You had a good one, a downfall. We just talked about it off the air. I'm gonna throw it out there. We'll throw it out there because I know Pablo and a couple other guys are watching us. What if? I'll let you talk about it, JC. I think you were talking about like, what if we reverted and didn't have cameras and phones and all that?
Yeah, you know how like people say I have a random shower thought? Well, I had a random driving thought, and I was like, man, how would it be if we lived in a world with like no cameras, where we weren't able to go back and replay something, or like we couldn't save a file on a computer because we couldn't go back to things. Like everything was just you did it and you move forward. Like there's no instant replays in sports. Can't go back and like, hey, no, you said this. You can't listen to this podcast again. Just once you hear it for the first time, that's it. There's no other history of it. Like, how would it be living in a world like that? And it's like very interesting. You know?
It would be weird because I feel like the new society is so dependent on phones and YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. I'm not like saying it's a bad thing, but I feel like so many people are dependent on it, and I feel like if there was an EMP ball burst and it just took out everything, I think the new generations wouldn't know what to do. They wouldn't know how to live. I think it would be like a downfall of society somehow. I feel like we would all have to revert back. And I feel like us older people that have lived that point to where a lot of this stuff wasn't there for us could survive because we knew how to continue to grow, to move on and just keep doing our normal daily stuff.
I don't know. I mean, it's like, you know, like back in the 1800s, you know?
Yeah.
Before
flights, no TV. Like,
yeah, I mean, like,
what did they do? They went outside and what? Petted the sheep, cows, like.
But, you know, like the way they preserved memories was either writing it down, writing a book, or drawing a picture.
Right.
You know, like there was no other way of like going back to like, you know, remembering what somebody said or did, or, you know, seeing something happen again. You know, and I think like we were talking about de-evolving as opposed to evolving. And I think, you know, there is that possibility that we go back to the way things were, you know,
right,
to a certain degree.
AI is going to take it all out for us. That's what it is.
Yeah, we're going to be all in the Matrix, man. We're all going to be plugged into a machine. Like, dude, there is a game called Second Life. Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of it. Yeah, I've never
Second Life. Like people play this game, and they get so engulfed into it, they get so drawn into it that they start treating it like another life, and you could exchange money on it, and like you can meet people and talk to people, and people form like virtual relationships with each other, and it's like it's weird. There's an episode of The Office where Dwight is playing this game.
Okay.
And it's kind of sad because it's like he's living his reality through this virtual reality game.
Right.
You know, like he changes who he really is in real life and gets to live the virtual life of the person he really wants to be. It's kind of sad, but people get into that, you know?
Oh yeah. There's so many people into it, and I feel like it's one of those things. It's I don't know. I think if something happened, it'd be a lot different. Even Pablo agrees. He said the brotherhood would be a lot smaller. And I'm assuming like that's just everybody knowing each other would be so much smaller because we wouldn't be able to know exactly, Pablo's company down in Florida, what's going on. We wouldn't know exactly what's going on in, California with a lot of the guys we know. It's one of those things. I think it would change a lot if we didn't have that stuff, or we couldn't, go back to what we were.
See, but dude, like we lived that. We lived a life prior to being able to have connections with people from out of state. Like before the internet, like I didn't know anybody that lived in Florida. I didn't know anybody that lived in Canada. I didn't know anybody that lived in Wisconsin.
Right. I didn't know nobody in Australia either till just recently. So, I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, we have lived it, and I had family living all over the place, but I didn't know anybody else over there,
Yeah.
and it's, when you actually had met somebody or talked to somebody, I remember sending letters to people. Like you write something and you'd wait, 2-3 weeks before you got a letter, because you're
Yeah.
like, okay, what do I do?
And like, if you had family living in another part of the country or another part of the world, like you wouldn't see them for years, and then you'd maybe come across them in real life, and you'd be like, "Wow!" Like you wouldn't recognize them. But like now, you get to see a picture of them on social media every day or whatever, so you know what they look like. Like there's been a point in life where like I had my cousins living in Puerto Rico, and I I last memory I had of them was when we were kids, and then I
Wow.
wouldn't see them for years ever until we were adults, and I'm like, holy shit, yeah, you changed. Wow, like I never saw like in between that.
Right.
So now, like if I want to see my cousins, like I could look on my mom's Facebook page and see pictures of them. Like, oh, it's cool.
Yeah, it's a lot different from when it was from us to now, and I think it's a big difference. I'll tell you that much. But
Yeah.
you never know
It's
what.
sad to close. I know we have a few minutes left, but it's kind of sad to close it up now. Is that we rely on those connections more so now than we do real life connections, like even family.
Right.
Like parents will let their kids FaceTime their grandparents, and that convenience satisfies the visitation,
Right.
but it doesn't replace like the real life one-on-one
Oh yeah.
visitation, but we've become so used to that. So it's like, oh yeah, when's the last time you saw grandma? Yeah, I saw her last, yesterday we did
Right.
FaceTime. No, that's not really seeing grandma.
Right.
When's the last time you saw grandma? Well, it was maybe like 4 months ago.
Right.
It's just, I don't like that. I'd rather have that in-person connection with the people I care about.
Right. And I think that's where a lot of things have changed over the years, where people are more relying on that video call, and like you said, instead of the in-person stuff. And it's a big difference. I see it in my kids, and I see it for me growing up, not seeing people for months, years before I would see them. It's a big difference now, to where, like you said, you can see them literally anytime, of the day, if they make a post or whatever. So it's definitely different. So, but yeah, you never know what'll happen in society, and AI is going to just take it over and make us all robots or whatever we're going to do. Who knows?
Yeah.
Might be like in that movie WALL-E, you guys. You never know. We might just all be sitting there and flying through space, waiting on a machine to take care of us and feed us and all that stuff. So, but it was a great episode, guys. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Pablo, for joining, and Nick, and whoever else is following us. Definitely keep following us. Keep listening to us. Thank you, guys. Thanks to our sponsors, Cujo, Pro Parts Direct, and Awesome Candle. Thank you guys for sponsoring us. And hey, guys, keep listening to us. We'll be back next week, and we'll have something new and interesting to talk about. Maybe we'll go into a little bit more of some conspiracy theories. You never know.
The world is not flat.
Right. It's round, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe it's square. Maybe it's rectangle. I don't know, guys. Maybe we should touch on that next week. So you never know what we're going to touch on. So,